Entertainment is a form of activity that holds the attention and interest of an audience or gives pleasure and delight. Modern entertainment, movies, TV shows, and online content is built entirely around the goal of grabbing and holding attention. But this isn't a new idea. As King Solomon once said, there is nothing new under the sun. Movies and shows today are simply the modern evolution of what ancient cultures once did through theaters, circuses, and ritual dances. From dramatic plays in Greece to the chaotic spectacles of the Roman arenas, the goal has always been the same: to captivate an audience, stir emotion, and keep people watching. Today's flashy visuals and binge-worthy stories are just new tools for an old purpose, keeping us glued, entertained, shaping our culture, and wanting more. The early church had some powerful insight on entertainment and how it should be approached. While they didn't have the modern media like movies, TV shows, sports, or concerts, their world was filled with its own forms of entertainment, like theatrical plays, gladiator games, and public spectacles. These ancient expressions share the same purpose as today's media: to capture attention, stir emotion, and influence culture. That's why their perspectives are still relevant. Today's entertainment may look different, but it's really just a modern descendant of those age-old performances. Tertullian was an early Christian church father, writer, and theologian who lived in the late 2nd and early 3rd centuries. He was one of the first major Christian thinkers to write extensively in Latin, helping to shape the foundation of Western Christian theology. Known for his sharp mind and boldness, Tertullian was deeply committed to Christian purity and moral discipline. He wasn't afraid to confront the surrounding Roman culture, often condemning popular forms of entertainment, like the theater, gladiator games, and public spectacles, as spiritually harmful and incompatible with a life of a faithful follower of Christ. In his writings, Tertullian had much to say about entertainment, its origins, its influence, and the spiritual impact it could have on believers. In his writings, known as the Ante-Nicene Fathers, he has this to say on entertainment: "Among us, nothing is ever said or seen or heard which has anything in common with the madness of the circus, the immodesty of the theater, the atrocities of the arena, the useless exercises of the wrestling ground. Why do you take offense at us because we differ from you in regard to your pleasures? If we will not partake of your enjoyments, the loss is ours, if there be a loss in the case, not yours. We reject what pleases you." Within his writings, Tertullian is addressing the early Christian community's refusal to participate in popular forms of entertainment in Roman society, namely the circus, theater, gladiator games, and wrestling matches. He points out the stark differences between the morally corrupt nature of entertainment. On page 80 through 81 of the Ante-Nicene Fathers, Tertullian references the book of Psalms chapter 1 verse 1, which says, "Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of the scornful." He uses this scripture to argue that Christians should avoid engaging in secular entertainment, as participating in such activities, giving one's attention and presence to them, directly contradicts the teachings of the book of Psalms. According to Tertullian, immersing oneself in the sinful and worldly influences of entertainment goes against the call for believers to maintain a life of purity and spiritual integrity. Well, we never find it expressed with the same precision. "You shall not enter circuses. You shall not look on combat or show," as it is plainly laid down. "You shall not kill. You shall not worship an idol. You shall not commit adultery or fraud." But we find that first word of David bears in this very sort of thing. "Blessed," he says, "is the man who has not gone into the assembly of the impious, nor stood in the way of sinners, nor sat in the seat of scorners." On page 87 of the Ante-Nicene Fathers, Tertullian emphasizes that just as Christians avoid immoral actions, they should also avoid entertainment that glorifies vices, like violence, lust, and foolishness. It's inconsistent to reject sin in practice but engage with it through media. Such portrayals can desensitize us to immorality and dull our spiritual sensitivity. By avoiding this content, we protect our hearts and ensure that what we consume aligns with the purity and holiness we are called to as Christians. For all licentiousness of speech, nay, every idle word is condemned by God. Why in the same way is it right to look on what it is disgraceful to do? How is it that the things which defile a man in going out of his mouth are not regarded as doing so when they go in at his eyes and ears? When eyes and ears are the immediate attendants on the spirit, and that can never be pure whose servants in waiting are impure. You have the theater forbidden, then in the forbidding of immodesty, if again we despise the teaching of secular literature as being foolishness in God's eyes, our duty is plain enough in regard to those spectacles, which from this source derive the tragic or comic play. If tragedies and comedies are the bloody and wanton, the impious and licentious inventors of crimes and lusts, it is not good even that there should be any calling to remembrance the atrocious or the vile. What you reject in deed, you are not to bid welcome to in word. Tertullian also wrote a treatise titled De Spectaculis, in which he argued that entertainment can be an offense to God. One of Tertullian's concerns was the hypocrisy of those who typically avoid worldly passions, while continuing to expose themselves and their children to those very same worldly vices through their entertainment choices. The father who carefully protects and guards his virgin daughter's ears from every polluting word takes her to the theater himself, exposing her to all its vile words and attitudes. Commodianus was an early Christian writer and poet who lived during the 3rd century. His writings offer a series of Christian poems aimed at teaching and encouraging moral conduct, particularly focusing on guiding Christians in the face of Roman pagan culture. In a portion of his writings, Commodianus addresses the dangers of secular entertainment, particularly the public spectacles like those held in Roman circuses. His reference to vain shows and the crowd of the evil one reflects his belief that these forms of entertainment were morally corrupting and spiritually dangerous. Thou art going to vain shows with the crowd of the evil one, where Satan is at work in the circus with din. Commodianus directly associates such spectacles with Satan's influence, especially the chaotic and noisy environment of the circus, where vice and immorality were often glorified. By participating in such events, Christians, in his view, were aligning themselves with the forces that oppose their faith and purity. Justin Martyr was an early Christian church father, apologist, and philosopher who lived during the 2nd century. He is best known for his writings defending Christianity against pagan criticism and explaining the Christian doctrine in a way that was accessible to the Greco-Roman world. In chapter 4 of his Discourse to the Greeks, Justin Martyr critiques the immoral practices and excessiveness of Greco-Roman society, particularly those common at banquets and social gatherings. He describes their excessive banquets, subtle flutes, luxurious anointings, and crowning with garlands as indulgent and sensual practices that leads to lust and immorality. For there are excessive banquets and subtle flutes which provoke to lustful movements, and useless and luxurious anointings, and crowning with garlands. With such a mass of evils do you banish shame, and ye fill your minds with them, and are carried away by intemperaments, and indulge as a common practice in wicked and insane fornication. Cyprian was an early Christian bishop who lived during the 3rd century. In his writings, Cyprian strongly emphasized the idea that immorality is learned through exposure to sinful influences. For Cyprian, entertainment wasn't just a passive experience. It had the power to shape one's character and moral compass. The spectator is attracted either to reconsider what he may have done in secret, or to hear what he may do. Adultery is learned while it is seen, and while the mischief having public authority panders to vices, the matron who perchance has gone to the spectacles a modest woman returns from it immodest. The early church's warnings about the power of entertainment should be seriously applied to today's culture. Early Christian leaders recognized that what we watch and listen to can shape our thoughts, influence our behavior, and even normalize sin. In the same way, modern entertainment, especially movies and shows, plays a major role in shaping how people think, speak, and live. It introduces new ideas, trends, and behaviors that often clash with our values, subtly shifting cultural norms. The early church saw the danger in this influence, and their insight are just as relevant, if not more so, in a media-saturated world like ours. American Pie used to be one of my all-time favorite films, one I'd watch over and over again. Its blend of comedy, nostalgia, and raw unfiltered look at the teenage experience really resonated with me. It captured the awkwardness, curiosity, and struggles that many young men face, all wrapped in a humorous and seemingly harmless package. At the time, I appreciated how relatable and entertaining it was, and it became a go-to comfort movie that felt both familiar and funny. This movie, along with many other raunchy movies in the last 40 to 50 years, influenced behaviors by making crude humor, lustful innuendos, and objectification feel acceptable, especially among teens and young adults. It contributed to a cultural environment where modesty was often mocked, and the pressure to engage in lustful activities became normalized. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this video was very fruitful. I hope the early church's views and insight into entertainment can help give you the insight into our modern entertainment and how it impacts the culture and our behaviors, thoughts, and beliefs. This is even proven by psychology, that what we watch can subtly influence us in major ways. But yeah, once again, thank you so much for watching. Please let me know your honest thoughts in the comment section below. I'd love your guys' insight. And if you would like to support this channel, I do have a Patreon, and I do have a book that I published way back in September. The links for all that will be in the bio below. Once again, thank you so much. God bless, and I'll see you soon.